Hello everyone, my name is Atwine Annah. I'm a Form 6 student at Gayaza High School. I'm very honored tonight to be interviewing the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health in the fight against corruption. Madam PS, we are very honored to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for taking off time and allowing me to interview you.
Thank you.
So we have seen corruption increasing in Uganda. So with this widespread corruption in Uganda, do you think that there is a solution to this corruption? And if yes, what is it?
First of all, thank you very much for coming to interview me. My name is Gayaza Atwine, Permanent Secretary, previously a Director of Health Monitoring. I was involved in the fight against corruption. First of all, it's not true that corruption has increased. The perception, the transparency of talking about corruption has increased. And that alone has made corruption look like it has increased. But corruption was there from time immemorial, except that the people are not able to talk about, but also there was no framework to expose the corrupt. But there is also effort government is doing. They have established anti-corruption agencies, and we do believe that with the effort of sensitizing the public, with also the measures of effective investigation, effective prosecution, and recovery of the money that has been stolen through asset confiscation, it will definitely reduce the corruption.
But you see, even with these effects, we see that even with these efforts, we see that there are still evident effects of corruption. For example, there are still doctors that are stealing medicine, there are still doctors that are selling government medicine. So, how are we sure? No. What do you have to say about the transparency in the health sector?
We continue to educate the public, because corruption in health sector cannot be fought by only us on the service provider alone.
Yes.
We also want the consumers, the service consumers actually to be our eyes. If you come to a facility and you are asked to pay money and you pay and you keep quiet, then you have condoned corruption. But if we continue exposing those that are corrupt, that's the only way we'll be able to reduce on the corruption. It will be also help us to know who, because expose, don't just give money and go away and grumble, because that's not the way we are going to fight corruption.
Yes.
If you are going to fight corruption, we want to see the public, the consumer of the services also to talk. The medicine stealing, yes, it is still there, but not, of course, not so much. But you see, if you talk about corruption, it cuts across everyone. People if you don't come on time and you cheat government, that is corruption. If you work if you do substandard work, yet you've been given what it takes to do, that is corruption. If you don't use the resources properly, regardless of what ministry, regardless of what organizations, even in the private, even in NGOs, there's corruption. So it's not only just health. But I do believe that this corruption, this issue of corruption, it can only be fought if the public get tired of this, get tired of the status quo. It's possible.
Strengthening partnerships between the government and anti-corruption agencies is one of the measures that have been put in place to fight corruption. Do we have assurance that this is actually working?
It is very working. I wanted to also to remind you, or just in case you didn't know, government, actually, the Parliament of Uganda passed a law on whistleblower. There is a Whistleblowers Act that protects the whistleblower.
Yes.
So that was meant to open up the community opportunities to report, any corrupt tendency to these anti-corruption agencies, so that they are able to follow through and investigate. So that strengthening is a continuous process. It is not just one event. It is not, but for example, Whistleblowers Act was one way, but also to establish anti-corruption courts, separate from the usual courts, establishing more even anti-corruption units. You You've heard about the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, you've heard about IGG, you've heard about... Even we work with the civil society. Government works very closely with the civil society to make sure that they help us, because they are our eyes in the community to tell us where the things are not working well, and we are able to follow up. Yeah.
Now you see, before, Uganda as a country, we have seen measures being put in place, and yet somehow they are compromised. Do we have assurance that these measures that are actually being put in place are actually going to work and are going to be worked on closely to see that they actually have an effect?
You see, the willingness is there. The fact that all those measures are being put in place,
yes,
that means that government is aware,
yes,
and also there is willingness to address those issues. However, at implementation, still I want to go back to my point I said earlier, is that much as we implement all this, or much as we put in place the frameworks to help us fight corruption, we cannot do this alone.
yes.
We want the public to be empowered, to be able to report, to be able to speak up, to be able to expose the corruption with evidence. Make sure they collect information and pass on this information, because many times we've called them to give us evidence so that these people are prosecuted, but they are not. So once the public gets out of their comfort zone and know that whatever is happening, whatever effect of corruption, they are also affecting them,
Yes.
and they fight, they support the government, we will be able to deal with corruption.
All right. So in conclusion, you're trying to tell us that the only problem that the government is actually facing in the fight in corruption, it is because the people are not cooperating, that citizens of Uganda are not cooperating.
If they were able to stand up against that, if they were able to expose, because all those corrupt tendencies, the two sides are together, they're in bed together.
Yeah.
But if one side is not cooperating, you will not have that corruption.
All right. As you conclude, what would you want to tell Uganda?
I just want to say that government is committed to fighting corruption, but corruption is also, let me tell you, it's not only Uganda. Corruption is everywhere in the whole world.
Yes.
It is just that for us, we are very open, we talk about it, but many other countries, they don't even talk about it.
Yes.
So corruption is everywhere, but we want everyone to take the responsibility of fighting corruption, so that it is not just you must fight corruption, but we say we must fight corruption together.
Thank you.
Thank you.